a couple of my thoughts from some games I watched over the weekend, a couple things I saw as well. But with all that aside, why don't we get into and update the top 25 rankings for the first time this season? Let me see if I do this. All right, I think we're good to go here. I'm gonna have to bounce back and forth a little bit between the screen and my notes, but we'll get into. So I've chunked out the top 25 into tiers, groups of similar or like teams. And my first tier out of the gate is teams I consider to be on the rise, teams that are making a name for themselves, drawing some attention from around the state. Sault Ste. Marie, Midland Dow, Alpena were here during the preseason rankings, so nothing new there. Caledonia and University Liggett being the two new names added to the top 25 so far. I heard a lot of good things about Liggett thus far. They're 3-0 to start the season, but I'll forewarn you, this appearance could be short-lived if they don't show well over the next couple games. It's an important 6-game stretch for the Knights. They got Grosse Pointe South. I believe that is later tonight as far as the time of taping. And I'll get into that a little bit more too with our picks for the games of the week a little bit later too. So they got Grosse Pointe South, Flint Powers, ranked opponent, De La Salle, ranked opponent, Lumen Christi, ranked opponent, Anchor Bay, and then M1 United, who was in the rankings preseason. So a lot of big games coming up in the next. I think that leads them into winter break. So we're going to find out in short order what Liggett is capable of and whether they stay here in the top 25 or play their way out of the rankings. The other new team to the mix, Caledonia, a lot of hype around this team preseason. They get out to a 4-0 start to the season. Henry Simon with 10 points. Tony Kaufman has 9 as well. I'm not sure they're even playing their best hockey yet either, which is the intriguing part. But similar situation to Liggett. Handle your business against teams like Alpena and Allen Park and Grand Rapids Christian and both Forest Hill schools. Take care of business, or you don't necessarily got to win them all per se, but you got to perform and show well. Otherwise, like I said, it could be short-lived. As much as I'm rooting and pulling for these teams to stay put, you got to earn your keep around here when it comes to the top 25. So, okay, let's move into my challengers group. I got 2, 4, 6, 7 teams here in my tier of challengers. Salem up 5 spots from 2 weeks ago. One of the biggest movers in this update this week. Nolan Kaminsky is a bona fide goal scorer. He's got 6 goals in 3 games. Had a hat trick in that in his high school hockey debut in that game against Howell that I was mentioning earlier. Cam Eichner is playing well for them too. That first line of Kaminsky, Patel, and Chappett has been good so far. But I think there's a little more juice to the squeeze too out of that line, and they're definitely capable of more as well. So if they get going, I think they could be even more productive. They've gotten pretty good goaltending play out of Mason Wines too. I thought he looked pretty sharp in that win against Howell. That win, just shows I think what Salem is capable of. So, even though they dropped 2 games on the west side over the weekend, both 2 ranked opponents, I do have them jumping up a pretty good bit here. The other team here that moved up was Granville. Granville kind of throttling everybody out of the gate. I laughed a little bit putting the blog together on PD's picks. I was quoted the Mighty Ducks. It's not worth winning if you can't win big, and their wins of 8-0, 8-0, and 7-1 out of the gate. I don't expect that trend to continue, obviously, but I do like to see teams handle business where business can be handled. So slate gets increasingly tougher over the next couple weeks, so we'll really get to see what Granville is made of. But they're up 2 spots here in my rankings so far. We will. Oops, I went backwards. We're gonna have to go forward. One more. There we go. We'll get into teams I'm considering in the hunt. Marquette up 5 spots as well. That's a big jump to number 8 in the rankings. Obviously, 2 huge road wins against the number 11 ranked Brother Rice and number 10 ranked Clarkston. on consecutive nights. That propels the Sentinels past both of them in my group of teams deemed in the hunt. That earned enough cachet for me to kind of overlook that Escanaba loss last week. But also, like, Escanaba is going to be a good team in their own right. And don't be surprised if the Eskimos sneak into the top 25 here before long. So, no shame in Marquette's loss to a competitive 3-1. Uh, like I said, a 3-1 game there to Escanaba. That essentially could be between two ranked teams in its own right. So, Marquette there, the biggest mover of the bunch. Clarkston, another big mover here, just in the opposite direction. I dropped them 6 spots, and maybe a little knee jerky reaction there, considering their 2 losses were by 1 goal each, and both to ranked opponents. That I think it was a 3-2 loss to number 7 Flint Powers was actually in overtime too. So the Wolves will absolutely have a shot to climb back up the rankings. I almost expect it to happen as well. They've got a big opportunity to call it get right this weekend at the Thanksgiving Invitational with a matchup against Forest Hill Central, and then they'd take on the winner of Brighton and Heartland. So a big opportunity there for Clarkston. And hey, if they look good there, and not even necessarily win, if you look good there, play those games competitively, you can see them moving back up a few spots as well. So we will keep moving into my my title contenders tier here. Howell and Livonia Stevenson both move up 2 spots. Stevenson played the number 1 ranked Detroit Catholic Central, I thought, extremely hard in that opening night game a few weeks ago. That's the most competitive I've personally seen a team play CC in a long time. Stevenson generated chances, and grade A chances at that. They moved the puck well. The game had good back and forth feel to it for both sides. It wasn't like Stevenson was just kind of hanging on and icing pucks and hoping to survive. I thought Owen Penny and company took the fight to CC and played them exceptionally well. Just seemed to kind of run out of gas a little bit there down the stretch. So I had seen enough to move them up here in the rankings into the number 4 spot. Same thing with Howell. They looked great in defeat to Salem a week ago. Follow that up with a long road trip to the UP and decisive wins over Calumet and then number 6 Houghton. Howell has talent, discipline, coaching, goaltending. They've got senior leadership, and they've got gifted freshmen. The Highlanders are kind of the total package right now of everything you could hope for when it comes to a program. So got Howell up here 5, and they obviously slide past Houghton after that big 4-2 win. And then obviously your number 1 team here, Detroit Catholic Central, rounds out the top 25. Just 3 goals against in 4 games thus far. I think they've only played 1 or 2 in-state opponents. They I think had back-to-back games with an out-of-state opponent, so not much to report on there. But I do think number 11 Brother Rice will give them a great game tonight in that rivalry game. But we'll have a little bit more on that in a moment. So here, that is essentially concludes your top 25 rankings as of November 27th. So check out the link in the description below for analysis. Sorry, I'm thinking through that as I'm saying it. Like, did I include it in the link below? Anyways, it'll be in the description below regardless. That will have analysis of all 25 teams included in the rankings, as well as, a couple mentions there of teams that are kind of on the bubble or just on the outside looking in. So more on the website at pdspicks.com. And